Unlock the path to healing with Exposed podcast. Join us as therapists from around the world break mental health taboos, share powerful stories, and provide insights that transform lives. Tune in, educate, and thrive.
Hello, welcome everybody in Expose podcast radio show. In today's episode, we have with us the youngest certified trainer of NLP and timeline therapy in Pakistan, master coach certified by American board, clinical psychologist, and founder and CEO of Neuro-Linguistic. Please let me welcome Manahil Hafeez. Hey, welcome.
So
I'm so happy to have you on our show. We chat quickly before, we had introduction call, and you shared with me a few things which I'm amazed by your age and what you accomplish. So let's get started. Could you share a little bit what's NLP? That's your specialty, and how would you explain that to somebody who has no idea?
Sure. Thank you so much for having me here today. And for sure, starting with NLP, my favorite topic. I love to speak about it, and I can speak about it for hours. And there are various definitions of NLP out there, but I would want to go very simple today. So, anybody out there who is listening to it for the very first time can relate to it as well, right? That would be the intention. So NLP stands for a Neuro-Linguistic Programming. Right? The easiest way to understand is how we use the language of our mind to create and to run the patterns that we have in our life. Now, once we understand this, we can change, we can alter, we can enhance these patterns to bring success in our life. So basically, learning how we are programmed and then making it perfect in the ways we want to. So NLP is basically a technology. Another way to define it is a technology of success. And it is by modeling. Now, this is a word I think, might a few of you would see, okay, what is modeling? So modeling is basically when I look at somebody who is very successful and I see, okay, what are the values of that person? What are the belief systems of that person? What are the core competencies of that person? And I match and mirror them and I replicate them and become successful. So NLP allows that sense of modeling. And it was made through modeling. So back in time, let me give one example. So Virginia Satir, she was a very successful family therapist of her time. Right? And she was modeled and we created meta model in NLP. And that is how we are following it for years. And it is creating wonderful results for people. So NLP is a technique of modeling, a technique to program yourself towards success. Yeah.
Now it gives me more idea what's NLP about, and I hope to our audience as well. Before I used to think NLP is Tony Robbins and reprogramming your brain, but I wasn't really sure what it was. But the idea of modeling, it really brings up the essence that you can actually, by neuroplasticity, recreate your own thought success pattern by copying someone else's way of thinking and seeing the world, which is pretty amazing comparing, to some other psychological ways of thinking, and it actually gives you power to create your future instead of focusing so much on the past and being stuck in stories. So you are as well certified in line therapy, and could you tell us a little bit the difference between line therapy, what it is, and NLP, and how someone can benefit from that approach?
Sure. So NLP is definitely, the programming towards success, and timeline comes in the way of it. So timeline is not very different, but it is a prerequisite for timeline therapy that you should be an NLP trainer as well, or you should be, somebody who is trained in NLP as well, right? So timeline therapy focuses majorly on negative emotions. Now, when I say this, people come up with a lot of misconceptions. Okay, what are positive emotions? What is negative emotion? And how do you define it? So, when I define timeline therapy, I make sure I define negative emotions as well. And with a very easy example. So, for example, when I say fear, everybody is like, oh, it's a negative emotion, right? But no, fear itself is not a negative emotion, because for sure, if I take somebody to the 10th floor of a building and I ask them to jump off it, they would say no, I can't. Why? Because at that time they're like, okay, my legs are gonna break off, or what's this method of suicide, I don't know. So technically what's protecting them at that point in time is fear, the fear of dying maybe, or the fear of protecting themselves from any harm, right? So fear at that point in time is a gift. Okay. And when we had our call earlier, you talked about abusive relationships, right? And a lot of cases come up when people talk about abusive relationships, and I say, okay, I see it like an adequate amount of hurt allows you to take a good action, an action to save and protect yourself from whatever is going on. So if you don't have the recognition of hurt, you may not able to take something for you, right? So it is also a gift. I feel like it is a gift too. But what is a negative emotion then? In negative emotion, we talk about intensity. So if the intensity of fear gets so high that I am not able to do anything in my life, now I label it as, or term it as, a negative emotion. Fear itself is not a negative emotion, but the intensity of fear that disempowers you is a negative emotion. That is a very beautiful definition that allows you to understand it, right? And then again, for anger also, people are like, oh my God, anger, just get away with it. But I feel like, if there is somebody who is, for example, at the borders protecting their country, they have a sense of anger for the opposite country, right? So that sense of anger is a gift for them, because it is allowing them to protect their country. So at that point in time, anger is a gift for them. So we are going to deal with negative intensity of anger. For example, if it is, impacting your relationships, it is impacting your professional life, it is impacting your day-to-day routine, then it is a negative emotion. So timeline therapy techniques allow you to decrease the negative intensity of the emotions, and hence it helps you with negative emotions, and it allows you to clean up that entire sense of intensity so that you can empower yourself towards a better version of yourself. Yeah, so that is how I define timeline therapy, and its role in supporting you and assisting you in life.
Can you actually cure with this technique somebody with PTSD or some really traumatic events, or is it just the emotions which are high intensity, or the extremes as well?
Okay, so see, it's my opinion in the way that it's, what is a trauma? It's something that I call it, an event in life that is challenging me in so many domains, right?
Yeah.
So what I technically do is, if a client comes to me, and of course there are so many events in their life, right, which are not good for them in their eyes, they feel like, this event happened, and this is like not getting me rid of the sense of negativity in my life, right? Now the idea of timeline therapy is, you gonna convert negative emotions into positive learnings that help you to get rid of the way you see the event, empower that way, change that frame, so that you remove it from your future, from your currently your present first, because it is something that you're feeling right now. So it clears the intensity in the past, you're feeling better in the present, and then for future you are making learnings that will allow you to get rid of that intensity increasing again. Now that is a better way to put it.
Mm. That really brings me more idea. And you mentioned later on we will have a little workshop. So I'm so excited. Maybe we can actually try part of what you are explaining so far. Are you open to share a little bit the reason why you are doing what you are doing today?
So basically the country, that I belong to, you can say 10 years back, the idea of mental health was not very well recognized. I feel it like a success that, in the past 5 to 6 years, people are now talking about it, and I can see people getting a good sense of progress with this concept, which is great. But back in time, 6, 7 years back, when I was a teenager and I was going through certain challenges in my life, and I realized it was significantly affecting my personal life, my professional life, my career as a whole. And there was no space to channelize that. And there was one concept that a teenager, can relate to. And it's like, okay, when, I have this infection, throat infection, or any infection that's, I have a fever. So quickly, this is catered to, and you'll rush to the hospital, you get the medication, great. But, I am in this pain, this mental pain. And, even if I talk about it, nobody is, really concerned about what to do about it, but it is causing an equal pain in me, right? There is an equal sense of discomfort. And then, me as a teenager thinking and processing this, and I was like, yeah, people do die from a kidney failure, but people do die of suicides as well. So it means that both of the things are equally important. Why do we not talk about this whole aspect of mental health? And, the physical, health is given the utmost importance when the consequences are the same in both ways. So this question as a teenager, it led me to start studying about it. And when I did, I quickly opted psychology as my field. And at that point in time, nobody was even sure, what are you doing? Because I was technically going for being a medical doctor. But then I realized that, maybe we have a great number of medical doctors. It's only because a broken bone shows on an X-ray. But, that depression doesn't show on a machine. But there is going to be some way I can channelize it. So I shifted my entire field from physical health to mental health, and I started to study about it, and I wanted to contribute on it. And here comes this journey unfolding itself in front of me very beautifully. And I just kept walking and walking, and things started becoming beautiful. And now I can, alhamdulillah, say that I have empowered many lives out there with their sense of course, the realization that they needed help and they wanted to do something about it. But that's how it started, and it's going. Yeah.
And in the same time, you are a model for so many other, people, including myself. So it is what you are doing is, and where you are going, because of, this is where you are today, but there's a whole destiny.
That means a lot. Thank you. And of course the journey goes on, because this is something that, I always say I'm still a learner. I'm learning so many things, so learning psychology, then moving to NLP, then moving to, timeline therapy, moving to, so this was just a practical way of, unfolding more things of how I can empower people. Because you always need a skill set. For example, a doctor goes into the surgery room with, the entire toolkit, because they're going to open a body and they may need anything. So with me as a professional of mental health, I'm going to open a mind, and I need a lot of tools in my box so that if anything comes up, I am ready to deal with it. This is the entire idea of equipping myself with more and more techniques every single day. And there are a lot still in my bucket list, because, when you open that mind, it is equal to opening a body, and you have to successfully close it. So you should need, the entire toolkit for it. That's very effective. And that helps them to bring them to a successful closure as well. That's how I stated.
So you are this mental mind surgerist.
Sure, that's a great word.
And
I like it.
what I like to say, it's like opening the Pandora box, because you just never know what's there. You just never.
Exactly, exactly. Yeah, because the person might come up with, oh, I have sadness. And when you start working with them, it's a lot.
Mm.
It's like opening a can of worms. So when you just open it, they start coming out, and you have to be well equipped to clean it up so that everything is clean up and empty. So it's like that. So it might sound very unpleasant throughout the process, of course, because you are opening a book for, if somebody comes up of 30 years, I'm opening a 30 years book, right? 30 chapters. So it's like that. So being well equipped always assists you throughout that process.
You are such a great communicator, the way how you speak and articulate, and I'm like amazed.
Oh, that's so
That.
sweet. Thank you.
And of course, I wanted to ask you if you were born this way, or you learned that skill. But before that, my main question is how somebody can learn that. What's the role? What role does effective communication play in personal development?
Okay, so once you talk about communication, I think it is what differentiates animals and humans. And that is why, the human is called a social animal. So the word social animal, I think it comes with social, it's with the interaction that we can think and we can speak. I think this is what makes us different from animals. So communication is a magic, and it has such power that it can change, it can affect, it can influence lives. And this is what I'm speaking by experience. So effective communication, and this is such I can say this word is not given the importance it actually requires, the recognition it actually needs, because everything starts and ends with communication. I am a teacher, I have a student, it's communication. I am a doctor, I have a patient. Of course, it's communication first, right? I am a therapist, I have a client, I am a businessman, I have a person who is a customer. Everywhere in life, it's all about communication. So the idea of, and let me share my error, the idea of my sense of communication was, oh, you should be able to speak the language very well. And you should have a very great sense of vocabulary. It's going to touch people. And I was so wrong. Because when I jumped into this field of NLP, I realized that it was nothing like that. I was so wrong. So the idea of communication is connecting consciously as well as unconsciously to the person sitting in front of you. Now, this is amazing because in NLP, I learned a technique which I teach my students and my clients always, that rapport is so important. Because if we have rapport, anything I say is going to touch you and influence you. And with communication, we feel like it is something verbal we are going to communicate with. But the major part of communication is nonverbal. This was something that was like a breakthrough for me. It's like, oh, here is where I was struggling, because I was a psychologist and I had this interaction with clients, but I was lacking in this sense of rapport. So having the entire skill set of nonverbal communication, verbal communication, and using techniques, like there are so many beautiful techniques. There's predicates, representational systems, language types, meta model, Milton model, beautiful ways you can connect to people. And this is basically the art of language and communication through rapport and the hierarchy of ideas. Beautiful techniques to connect to people, and communication is a skill set. So you need to learn it through skills. It is not a language, it's not effective vocabulary. It is the awareness you have with the other person sitting right in front of you. So you connect to them at the unconscious level. And then anything and everything you say, it aligns with them. That is the idea of effective communication. So it is going to impact your professional relationships for sure, but also the communication you have with your family, with your friends, with everybody around you. So it is a life skill, right? So that's how I see it.
I cannot stop myself from asking that question. How do you actually connect subconsciously with that non-verbal factor? Are you open to talk a little, just shortly about that?
For sure. So
because I know you're doing a workshop, but yeah.
Sure. I can just, give you a quick summary for that. For sure, it's a very detailed topic. But then see, when I talk to every person, they have a very different tonality, very different, pitch, timbre, the way their posture is, the way, they sit, the way they breathe. So these are very, very important elements. And this has nothing to do with what I'm saying right now or the language I use, right? So this is all that is in the element of nonverbal cues. And what is an effective communicator? Who utilizes all the information given to that person. And breathing pattern is also one of them. So in NLP, we learn how you can match and mirror and then eventually pace and then lead the other person sitting right in front of you, but very positively in a situation and in the intention to empower that person only, for sure. So rapport is beautiful way to build that sense of connection, utilizing the nonverbal cues as well as how you're going to use the language they use. What is the predicate that they are in right now? What is their representational system right now? So that allows you to connect with them verbally as well. So for details, of course, there's a workshop, but this is how I can, describe it very shortly. Yeah.
Thank you for that. Yes, the breathing is so powerful and just opens my eyes how we do it unconsciously anyway, and that NLP uses it as in a deeper way.
Very deep.
So when it comes to the relationship between self-talk, like what we tell ourselves, and mental health, could you share your own thoughts about that relationship a little bit?
Okay, now self-talk. And when this word comes up very often to me, I ask this one question from my students or my clients, that who is the person you spend your most time with? And the answer is yourself. You spend the most time with yourself. Even if, I'm sitting with anyone in a group, there is always a conversation going on inside me. And, even if nobody is there with me, then again, it's you and yourself, right? So the maximum time you spend with you. So the relationship of you with yourself is the most important relationship. So when I am always training, my students in terms of relationship, I tell them you are unaware of the very important relationship in your life, and that is you with yourself. So when we talk about self-talk, this is the most important area. And what happens is our unconscious mind is designed in such a way that whatever instructions you give, you are giving to it, it takes it as it is. So if all day I am telling to myself, I'm not good enough, I cannot do it, I cannot achieve anything in my life, and my behavior turns out to be the same way. So you understand that is the power our mind has. So technically, when a person is in negative self-talk, there is a logic behind it. And the logic is there is so much cleanup work to be done in that person. And why it is dangerous and fatal? Because you are spending most of your time with your own self, and you are somebody who is completely into a cycle of negative thoughts, overthinking, limiting beliefs, negative emotions, inner conflict. So of course, eventually the language is going to be negative at that point in time. So what I say is the awareness is great. I am talking negative to myself. Great. You got the awareness. Then you step up to the cleanup work. So in my trainings, there is a 4 cloud model that I teach. And you can, of course, go and practice it with your clients as well. And for sure, it is really great with you as well. Now, the first cloud that we work on is negative thinking. Then we work on negative emotions with timeline therapy, as I mentioned before. Then we go to limiting beliefs. Then we go to inner conflicts. When you are divided into two halves, it's called inner conflicts. Should I go for this? Should I go for that? So this entire thing has to be cleaned up. Otherwise, anything and everything that you say to yourself is going to be negative eventually, because that is the thing inside you, right? And it's there. So, of course, this is something that is to be worked on naturally. Once you are clean, you have that cleanup work done, eventually your relationships are going to improve. Why? Now, this is a question to ask. Why and how? See, you cannot pour from an empty cup, right? So once I have a sense of empowerment in me, I cannot give it to other people. My cup is empty. There's nothing I can contribute. Or take it in that way as well, that you give what you have. So if I am filled with negativity inside me that's not worked on, this is what I give out. So easy way to explain is, if I have chocolates, I can give that out. If I have a cactus plant, I can give that out. If I don't have it, I can't. So the idea is you give what you have. And if you are an empty cup, you cannot give empowerment to others. So once you do that cleanup work, you have a positive self-talk, you are somebody who is empowered, automatically you empower your people, your relationships improve, your professional life improves, because you are distributing what you want. And that's empowerment for sure. Yeah.
Well, I cannot just wait when you come to United States with, with all what you are doing. I feel like
Sure, that would be great. And that is one of the things in my bucket list for sure. So I'm really looking forward to it in the future. Yes.
For those who are more kinesthetic like me and like to, absorb things by doing, not just listening, do you have any workshop or activity we can do with you to understand more the topic of neuro-linguistic and all what we just talked for the last 20 minutes about?
Sure. So basically, for sure, NLP comes up with, hundreds of techniques, right? But there is a very small awareness-based activity that I always go forward with, and that allows, the audience at least to build a frame. And I think that's very important, because if you don't have the lens with what you look at things, then everything is meaningless, right? So I describe it like you are wearing a glasses and the glasses is covered with mud. So even if I take you to the most, beautiful place, you're going to see it very shady, not because the, environment was very unpleasant, but because the lens you have is not authentic, is not correct, or it needs to be cleaned. So this activity, you're going to look at it like that. You need to clean that lens, so that if you have a clear lens with what you are looking at everything, then you are able to see the reality in the way it is. Like with a clear lens, if I take you anywhere, you're going to see things how they are, right? So the dirt on that glasses or the lens, we are going to clean it with this activity. So this is the small intention, but it can serve big purposes if you are able to connect to it and to feel it and to, you can say, act on it. That is going to empower you in so many ways. And it empowered me in the very beginning, because I realized that, whatever I was looking at was with a very muddy lens. So it was eventually not making sense to me. So for everyone who is listening to us right now or anytime in the future, I would always encourage to take a pen and paper, right? And when you take out that pen and paper, right, there are 4 things I want to write down on that paper, right? I want you to write that down. So number 1 is what people say. Number 2 is what people do, or basically people's behavior. And number third is there are circumstances around me. Now, this can include, you can say earthquake or maybe rising, economy, anything, rising taxes, anything around you. And the fourth one is, okay, you can say my behavior. So once you have written these four things down, what I want you to do is draw a table with two columns. And when you draw a table with two columns, in the first column, I want you to write things I can control. And in the second column, I want you to write things I cannot control. And once you are done, I want you to look at these four options and place it in what you think it is like. And of course, everybody can do it with their own sense of timing. But let me come to the answer to this activity, and it is what people do, what people say, circumstances around me, like somebody died, somebody, came and, spoiled something that you had, right? And maybe an earthquake happened, maybe, anything. So all of this comes in the column of things I cannot control. So what comes in the column of things I can control? And it is my behavior. And the correct way to understand is how can I respond to it? This is the key. How can I respond to it? How can I respond to it? So anything that is in your control is, okay, somebody said something. How can you respond to it? Somebody did something. How can you respond to it? Okay, something happened. How do you respond to it? So the only thing in your control is how do you respond to it? So the idea is when a client comes to me, I have to look at it like we are only going to work on this column. Things I can control, my behavior. So understand that anytime you are talking about, he said that, she did that, that happened, you are putting your energy into the side of the equation, which is equal to 0 or minus, because it is going to consume you at so many levels. So we only build this awareness that you have to be at cause and not at effect. Now, when I use these terms, let me explain it. Cause is a state where you have three things: acceptability, accountability, and taking charge. When I say acceptability, it is the acceptance that what people do, what people say, and the circumstances are not in my control. Accepting this completely and feeling that sense of belief that, okay, these are the things that are not in my control, and I need to believe it and I need to accept it. Then accountability. How do I respond to it? How do I respond to it? And third one is taking charge. Okay, this is my plan A. It didn't work. Plan B. Okay, it didn't work. Plan C. So ultimately, you are going to reach the success only when you are at cause side of the equation. When you are at this state, eventually you will lead to some empowerment and results, because you are looking at choices, you are looking at options, and something is going to work for you. But when you are at effect state, you have these three terms that you have inside you, and it is blaming, it is shaming, and it is giving justifications. So you're blaming people around you. If he had done this, I would have, but he's not doing, so I can't, right? And you are giving justifications, and you are in the sense of shaming other people. Or even if I say, I am just the wrong person, I am not good enough, this is also self-blaming and self-shaming, and this also comes at effect, because this is also a disempowered state. You are self-blaming and self-shaming, but you're not doing anything, right? You're not taking action. So this is also an effect state. So anything that you are going to do, or any intervention in NLP that we are going to do, first we have to be very aware that the client is at cause, and at the cause side of the equation, and even the coach or the trainer is at cause also. because he, as a trainer, as a coach, should be always looking at, okay, this thing is not working, let's go to this thing. That this thing is not working, let's go to, the other thing. So options and choices. And this side of the equation, the cause side, always ensures success. So the conclusion of this awareness-based activity is that we come to this conclusion that we have to be aware of our state so we can get the results. Yes. Okay, Anastazja, I have, there is Azan going on right now. So it will be like 3 minutes till the Azan sums up. So we can
Sure.
restart it.
Yes.
We can keep the camera on, just we're waiting.
Okay, sure.
Okay, great. We are good to go.
Thank you.
Thank
For
you so
speaking
much.
your boundary, and that's great. Okay, let me go back because I forgot what I wanted to say.
Yes, we did the activity and I concluded that.
Yes.
So we can go to the next question now. Yes.
Yes. I love your leadership skill. First of all, like that's what you know. That's you were born this way. Like that's who you are, right? That energy of leadership, or did you learn this on the way somewhere?
Okay, so I feel like we are gifted with certain, you can say, potential, but if we do not polish it, it's gonna stay there and never improve and never produce results. So for sure, we are gifted with beautiful abilities by the creator, but it is on us that we work on it, we enhance it, and we put our sense of effort in it. So that works at the end of the day.
I love what you said right now, but also want to relate to the last activity, things we can control and the things we can't, and taking the accountability, accepting it first instead of denying, because that almost always creates suffering. Like when we are like, it couldn't happen. Oh, I can't believe it happened. And then just accepting brings, it really works, honestly. Like I have been doing this accepting technique recently because I realize denying creates all suffering. I mean, it sounds so simple, but when you really start to like accepting it instead of like
blaming and shaming,
focusing on what they did, what happened, and like no, okay. And I mean, I'm amazed because this is something what recently I have has opened my own eyes.
Sure. Yeah. It really brings awareness, because for me, when I actually learned this technique, I was like, okay, oh my God. So this is where I was wrong all my life, because at so many days I have invested all my energy into why they did this, why they did that. And I was like, okay, in that sense of blaming and shaming, I was just wasting my energy. The people didn't change, they're the same, but I wasted a lot of my energy into just sitting and that blaming area. So it is just gonna waste your precious time, energy, and your beautiful day, where you can actively achieve so much, but because you went into the affect side of the equation, you didn't. So that is also your choice. Not making a decision is also a decision. So that is how I look at it. Yeah.
So for somebody who's listening and this message reflects to them, but for some reason they pass around more what they're feeling, and even though they did this workshop, they still feel like it's so much easier to just get angry than accept and take accountability. Is there any advice would you give, or anything would you like to say to that person?
Sure. So the idea is, if you are happy and satisfied with where you are in life and it's not bothering you, okay, great. Then for sure, we cannot come to you and convince you to, no, you need to change, no, you need to go forward. No. But for anybody out there who is listening to me right now and they know that they are in a very unpleasant state right now and they are willing to work on it, then I can give them all that I have. Because the willingness to change comes from the client, and eventually they produce the results and empowerment. We as coaches or trainers are just guides, but the willingness to change comes from the client. So the advice for anybody who has willingness to change is, you really need to work on yourself. You find the way how you want to make it NLP, make it timeline, make it any other thing you want to. But then just you really need to get up and do something about it if you have that willingness to change. But if you don't, there is nothing in this world, we cannot drag people. We cannot force people to change, because the willingness should always come from within them. The awareness that I am not in the state I need to be. I need to work on work on it. I want to work on it. So that comes from the individuals themselves. Then the role of a trainer and coach comes up. Yeah, this is how I look at it.
Only when you are ready. Okay.
Yeah, only when you are ready and willing to change.
So in what ways can linguistic techniques improve mindfulness and personal reflection, based on your expertise and your experience and your work with people?
Sure.
Because I feel like you're so present here with me, and that's not common, like among this generation. Like, many people are more like easily distracted, and so
sure. So basically, it is going to sum up what we talked about for the past half hour.
Yes.
That it's all about bringing awareness, because the NLP communication model states that there is tons of information in the surrounding, but there is a very limited amount of information that our brain can process at a time, right? So a lot of it goes through a lot of filters, deletions, distortions, generalizations, right? So we do work on how we can get rid of them or how we can utilize them to bring change. Now, this is another amazing technique. But the thing is, awareness of your current state, awareness of what you are saying to yourself, awareness of what the other person is saying. It's all about awareness. Like NLP, what it does is bringing awareness to your life. It's bringing the sense of control in your life, because I control now whether I am going to be at cause or effect. Now I know this. So this is a small example of this. So every technique allows you to bring more awareness. So any time when you are in life, okay, what I'm saying right now, it's not that way. And there are so many beautiful linguistic tools. So there is quantum linguistics. There's so much with NLP that empowers you to break down that cycle of negative thoughts that starts running inside you, and to quickly come to the positive side of the equation. So that is how linguistics can empower or disempower you, because your internal representation is everything. It controls everything. Today, I am thinking I'm not good enough. I'm not going to go and, do 6, 7 steps to make my life better because I've decided I'm not good enough. I can't do it. But if my internal representation is, I'm going to go do 10 things. If 9 don't work out, it's okay. 1 would, and that was going to empower me. So everything is decided by what I have here, the language of our mind, how it creates and how it runs the patterns that we have in our life, right? That's what we talked about. So it is all about bringing awareness with what language is there going on inside and what you are going to take outside and what other people are saying, the awareness of everything. So NLP is bringing that sense of awareness, and that awareness allows you to decide whether you want to be on positive side or the disempowering side. And the idea is that people think that this responsibility is a burden. The word responsibility, when I say you are responsible for this, and everybody's like, oh, what a burden. No, responsibility is power. Because if I don't take control of my mind and my actions, somebody else will eventually. So having a responsibility of how you choose to respond to situations, it is the ultimate power because you are your own controller. So it is not burden, but I look at responsibility as a power to shape your life, to change your life towards how you want it. So, and as you took the name of Tony Robbins, I would quote one of his beautiful sayings that it is in your moments of decision that your destiny is shaped. So the control is your power. Your decision making is your power. It's not a burden. So that is how I would conclude that. Yeah.
What's the future of neuro-linguistic? Do you feel like it's going to evolve in I just thought about it right now because as you were talking, it feels like we are changing, the generation is changing, the language is changing. And do you think it's going to evolve in some another technique, or what it is, it's enough? And it's going to, like, people in the next 22nd century and 23rd century are going to apply it as well?
Sure. So the thing is, for past 55 years, NLP is there like 5 decades. So there are certain changes that keep coming, but within the techniques that are present. Because, when people ask me, how can we believe NLP works? I say, by looking at the results it has been producing for decades and decades now. So NLP is a result-based technology. It's going till date because it produces results. It's going till date because it is giving a sense of success to people. And that is why now people are opting for it more and more every single day. So if we talk about evolution, yes, there might be certain revisions that come up because, when I was taking the training of timeline therapy for becoming a certified trainer, they talked about how every 5 years we, bring certain, you can say, this is a rule that you're going to go and revise it with your trainer because there are certain revisions that would have come up. So there are things that are going to be added up or things we are going to change for better. But of course, the basis remains the same because the basis is so strong that it has been going on for decades now. So the basis is going to remain same. The concept of NLP is going to remain same. But for sure, there can be certain additions, add-ons, making it more impactful. It is, of course, the intention of every trainer to bring more and more results into the field and for people out there. The intention is just to empower people, right? So if things getting added on is empowering people, why not? We would love to do that as trainers and, being pioneers in the field, for the coming future.
Is there anything else would you like to add before we talk about your work in the world and your vision, your services? Is there?
Sure. I would say that the belief in NLP for me came with, of course, practicing it and seeing the results myself, right? So for sure, to anybody out there, people sometimes go very quick in judging, that, okay, this is something that It's not going to work. This is something, because I had those ideas and fears too. But it's always great to make a conclusion once you have gone through it and once you have witnessed it with your own, you can say practice, with your own sense of experience, right? So the great way to bring conclusion to anything that comes your way is to yourself witness it with your own eyes, with your own sense of practice and sense of feeling. And then you can always decide what works for you. For me, NLP was like, okay, I have seen other things at that time, and I felt like they were not creating the impact I was looking forward to. So I opted NLP in a sense of experimentation, but it worked for me and it changed my life forever. So it's always great to, jump in first, see how it feels, have a first-hand experience to it, and then jump to conclusion rather than just saying no to things in life just, by making quick judgments. So this is how I would, sum it up, for anybody who is listening to NLP for the very first time. Yeah.
Is it any type of group of people that NLP tends to like attract more, like, or generally there is no relationship between like some type of people, like
Sure. So NLP is for everybody. When people come to me and say, who is NLP for? And I say, as you can say, mixed martial arts. It's a skill set, right? It's a technique. So irrespective of course, age, and irrespective of the profession they come from, irrespective of, other things, like, okay, the only thing is your intention to do it and your ability in believing that you can do it. So NLP is then for everybody because it is a skill set and anybody can acquire any skill set. So there are no prerequisites for it unless, the other person should be receptive enough, right? So of course, these are certain main attributes that you should have, that you should be able to understand, you should be able to communicate, in normal ways, normal functioning ways. That's it. For example, for mixed martial arts, I would say that you should be at least physically healthy to take the training. Yeah, to take the training of that skill set. It's same for NLP. It's a skill set, so anybody can learn it. You are a human. You have a mind. That's enough. That's enough, because that's all we're gonna need. I need you to be physically present. I need your brain to be actively receiving what I'm saying, and then you can do amazing in it. Why not? But the passion to learn it, to be there, I think the attitude to learn is attitude and the willingness to experiment. These are the attributes I look for when I'm signing students for my training. I make sure I sit with them personally and I see these things in them. They have this attitude of willingness to experiment and to learn, and this attitude of curiosity is all what NLP comes up with. So they should have these attributes at least. Yeah.
I love your approach of experimenting different techniques and just seeing what works for you. I think that's that's something what I will learn. I learned from you and other great teachers, including Tony Robbins. And when I was 19, I read his book, like that one, Awakening the Giant Within. I was back then.
Awakening the Giant Within. Yes.
I was back then like suicidal and depressed, and I had, like you said, those glasses with the mat, couldn't see it, and yeah, and it's almost like we forget life can, like, the language can get better. Like we think language is all we learn at schools and then that's it, but it's so much more to the story.
Exactly. There's a context to it. Yes.
So can you share a little more, not a little more, but share your vision for neural, no, I want you to teach me how to say it, neural nexus?
Yeah, it's my institute, and neural nexus. Yes.
Okay, so one more time. So what is your vision with neural nexus, your institute?
Yes. So basically, being in the field for so many years now, and of course, as I started, this was a dream to build a place where I could, practice my vision in terms of empowering people. It started very small, but I always had in mind that it had to be big someday, you know. And the idea is that we all have a very short span in this world. We have a very limited time. So the impact that you want to create is always a teamwork. It's not only a job of one person. So creating an institute is with the vision that I create hundreds of wonderful ambassadors of change. Because when I am no more, they take that legacy forward and they keep empowering people. So my institute is divided into two ways. So this is a coaching program. So it is a one-to-one, you can say, process in which, a client comes to me and I take them through their journey of empowerment. So this is a coaching. So there is somebody who is really struggling in life with their emotions or thinking or conflicts or beliefs. And, they have this certain plan for the future, but they're not able to achieve it. The coaching program is a one-to-one, you can say, process. The other side of my institute, which is, of course, something that is aligned with my vision, is producing coaches or practitioners. So if I produce one practitioner, that a person is going to go out and empower hundreds of lives. So if I produce 100 coaches, they're going to empower maybe, 10,000 lives. So the idea with my institute is producing coaches, training people to become practitioners so that they go out and they empower. So because I alone cannot do it, right? Because we as humans have certain limitations of time in this world, energy in this world. But if I give this gift of knowledge to thousands of people, they will take the legacy forward for me, for the world, and they will produce, betterment and empowerment for people around there. So my vision is to expand the empowerment in my country, in every country of the world, irrespective of culture, irrespective of anything. Empowerment is the right of everybody out there. So the vision of my institute is more of producing coaches. So my training is, you can say, in alignment with the American Board of NLP that is situated in USA, and Timeline Therapy Association, which is one of the chambers of American Board. And in the, in alignment with them, in license with them, I do produce coaches that can go out, they can start their own coaching businesses on, set of, you can say, company, they can open their own company, they can take that all sense of empowerment forward. And this is a beautiful vision, which I now am seeing coming into reality. And of course, there is a lot of work going on and will go on till I am here. And the entire things come to empowering people so that, when like I was a teenager and I thought where to get help from. So somebody out there shouldn't think that. They should always know that, there are coaches and we can go to them and we can get rid of this stuck state in life that we are going through. So the vision is reaching everybody out there who has the willingness to change, but they need the resource for it. So this is the entire idea of Neuro-Linguistics.
What services do you provide additionally? Is there any other services? You mentioned coaching for individuals or training them to become NLP practitioners. Is that?
Yeah.
And that's a lot. I just want to make sure I got that question as well.
Yeah, perfect. So basically, yes, what my institute works is I train people to become practitioners. And if there is somebody who is just looking for one-to-one coaching, I would be available for that as well. The services that we provide is, of course, in empowering people and giving them the clarity they are looking for. So if there is anyone who thinks that, I need coaching, maybe I offer a complimentary session of half an hour to that person, like 30 to 40 minutes, so that they can build clarity if I am the perfect coach they want to go forward with. And same, if somebody wants to become a practitioner of NLP and timeline therapy, I offer them a complimentary session of 30 to 40 minutes where they sit with me, they understand, that if their intentions align with what I am offering, They want to become a coach. They want to have that sense of emotional mastery, financial freedom, professional development, and how my program can empower them in all those domains. So this is a complimentary session that I get to them, and then that is a free decision for them to learn and to, of course, take the decision if they want to work with Neural Nexus or not. So this is something additional that I offer, because clarity is also the right of every individual if they are stepping into something. So this is the additional sense of service that I provide to people so that they can come up with clarity if they want to become a practitioner or not. So this is something that we as an institute are working forward to. Yes.
Thank you so much for being on our show, Manahil. And I'm so excited for what you are doing in the world and for your institute, Neural Nexus. I'm going to add the links to it and how people can follow you on Instagram.
Sure. So we are live on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, as well as YouTube. And we also have our official website, which of course I will share with you. And anybody who wants to connect with us can just fill a form on our website, and my team will connect them with me directly so that I can serve them with the best that they want to be served with.
Thank you again for all the value and the exercise you provided. And I'm looking forward to interviewing you in the future again.
Sure, I would love to be here. Thank you so much. It was so beautiful to talk about everything. You had wonderful questions, and I think they built so much clarity. It is always the right questions that have an effective outcome for sure. And it was great to have you with me for this time. And thank you so much for inviting me. It was a pleasure to work with you.
I hope you enjoyed this interview, and please subscribe my YouTube channel. For you, it's a one click. For me, it means the possibility to continue creating impact in the world with those videos. Thank you, and see you soon.